money brings up a lot of issues for people, you might have noticed. And that's true for most everyone, in my experience. There's a particular flavor of issues, a sort of basket of pathologies that come up for change agents specifically that have to do with a love-hate relationship with money, because money has a very old paradigm smell to it and lives at the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so people who are called to the more spiritual levels, what some might call the spiritual bypass, right, upper chakras only, thank you, tend to associate negative stuff as being less spiritual, less sacred, less holy, etc. And in particular, the desire for money starts to become apparently unevolved through that lens. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's also the good old-fashioned Judeo-Christian, money is the root of all evil, that is living in the West, is part of our psyches no matter what. Like that just sort of got leaked in at some point, so we picked that up too, which the Buddhists and the East Asians don't seem to have that going on. Although it's interesting, some of them in many of those systems take vows not to handle or acquire money at all, but for some reason they don't seem to have the same amount of baggage about it as we do, which I find very interesting. Likewise, when they take vows of celibacy, they don't seem to have as much baggage about it as we do in the West. I have no idea why that is. Could be from this distance I can't see the baggages clearly, I don't know. Does anyone have that money is not so spiritual, the desire for money is not so spiritual thing going on in your psyche? Raise your hand. Notice my hand is up. Good. Okay. All right. Now then we have on the flip side, we have the abundance teachings and the secret and all of, affirmations and all this kind of stuff, the bring it on, right? Which sometimes, in my experience, can be very ignoring of shadow, right? It doesn't, to me, acknowledge sufficiently the undercurrents and unresolved stuff around it. So I did some chatting with money. I'll talk to anything. With my buddy Ora Gavrieli, we had some conversations about it and talked to money and this sort of thing. And money had some very interesting stuff to say. The other interesting thing to note about money is that it's artificial. We made it up. It doesn't actually exist except for the fact that we decided it existed and created it. Right? And the fact that this piece of paper is worth 1 somethings and this other one is worth 1,000 somethings is very arbitrary. They're the same, if you look at them, the same piece of paper. It's a different number per time. Very arbitrary. And now we've got it all stored as ones and zeros in a computer somewhere. Right? So actually a very small fraction of the money supply is actually paper. For this reason, because it's artificial and arbitrary and we made it up, I think it's very unfair to blame money for anything. We made it up. That's so unaccountable of us to say, money does this and money does that, bad money. What money told me was, it agreed that yes, I'm arbitrary and yes, I'm artificial, and I don't really mind being blamed for stuff, that's cool with me. Seemed to have a thick skin. It said that because it doesn't really exist in a certain sense, because it's artificial and arbitrary, that it's a projection screen. And however you feel about money, or whatever you have going on with money that's not working for you, is a pointer to shadow material in yourself. Whatever you have going on with money, whatever blame you put on money, however you feel about money, whatever difficulties you have with money, are pointers to shadow material in yourself. So whoever said money is the root of all evil had some shadow work to do on their evil parts that they had disowned. Make sense? Good. So lovely blank screen because it has no inherent anything of its own other than what we made up and ascribed to it. So what are some statements, if you're being honest with yourself about what at least one part of you believes, feels, or has difficulty with money, what would be some statements you might make about money? Yes.
I'm afraid I won't have enough.
Good. I'm afraid I won't have enough money.
One of the beliefs I was brought up with was there's always enough for what's important.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Compounding makes a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. I did some work with a woman named Gina Maria Mele, who helped with the Creating from Higher Guidance program. I did like a year and a half before we invented the massive belief relief process, a year and a half of work with her clearing limiting beliefs. And I found that I had the one person in my family system who was wealthy was my uncle, who sold valves to oil companies, traveling high-end salesman. Like he would travel to the Middle East and Asia and stuff like that, selling valves. And he was like president or co-owner of some company. And he was really funny, but he was kind of a jerk and completely invulnerable and no real warmth there, if you will. So this was the humor as a defense kind of thing, right? And what I realized doing this work when she was tracing back the roots of some of these beliefs is that as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 10-year-old kid watching him, that was my only model for what people with a lot of money looked like. And why would I want to be like that? And there's just this very simple logic that children do that I did and had to work through. So what I'd like you to do is spend a few minutes just doing some sentence completions, writing money is, or people who have money are, or money this, or money that. Just start writing stuff, and you want to you kind of take the filters off as best you can and just go for it and write a whole series of statements. And some of what comes up may surprise you. Finishing your last sentence. It's a good, very simple exercise for just flushing some stuff out. Someone willing to share one that surprised you? We'll start with Michio. Yeah?
Okay, surprised me. I now see a pattern. I see.
So read us the one that surprised you.
Money buys freedom. Money can get education. When I have enough money, I'm not motivated. I feel guilty about getting material things, jewelry or gourmet food or clothes.
Good. So what's the pattern you saw as you were looking?
Well, I don't. Pattern is that I do spend money rather generously and freely when I think I can get more freedom.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And
so we've got money tied to freedom in some way.
yes.
Good.
And I think it comes from my relationship with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tried to get out of Japan, I worked, after school hours and everything else, and saved enough money to buy the ticket and so forth. And I worked so hard during the college years in order to pay the tuition.
Mm-hmm.
But when I am not trying to get freedom, I'm not that motivated.
Good. 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 And can you, recalling to her story, right, that now we have this young Japanese girl looking around at the way the women there are treated and going, ugh, right? This is literally my ticket out of this situation, right? So the association between money and freedom makes all the sense in the world, but now we have a wound-driven motivation for earning money. And if I feel free, it was successful, and I don't need money. Good. Well done. Yes?
I had problems writing things down that would possibly come true. Like, I didn't want to write stuff down, because to me, if I'm writing it down, then it may come true.
Did you write anything down?
I did.
Okay. Good. Now, let me give you a tip about this. So I've run into this before. People who are particularly via positiva and affirmation based don't want to feed anything negative, right? Now, there's legitimacy to that point of view in the following sense, which is if I say, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be poor over and over and over again, only the outermost layer of the brain hears the don't part, right? The lower levels don't get the not. And if you view it that's from a brain sense, from a mind psychology sense, it's the same thing. The deeper levels of the psyche don't get the not. That's why if you say to a 2-year-old, don't push that button, right? So, but the younger and in many ways more powerful parts of us are exactly like that. And so yes, if I say that, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be poor over and over and over again, I'm setting the intention of being poor unintentionally. So at that level, it's true. Here's the problem with that point of view, which is therefore I'm never going to say, think, or do anything negative, so as not to feed it, is now I'm stuffing all kinds of stuff under the chair. And it's going to get crowded under there, and the chair is going to start to kind of wobble on this huge pile of unstable gunk that I'm shoving under there. So part of the invitation to just write all this stuff is an invitation to write long enough that something will leak through from your unconscious. How many of you had that happen? That something you didn't know you believed popped out on the piece of paper or the screen or whatever. It's like, oh, look at that. Where'd that come from? Right? That's why I made you take so long doing it, was so you would run out of conscious ones and start doing a few unconscious ones. So it's already in there. And the question isn't, do I want to make it real or not? The question is, do I want to be consciously aware that that's going on in my psyche or not? Either way, it could come true. The fact that I keep it unconscious does not reduce the chances that it will occur. Am I making sense? Okay. So feel free to do it that way, but it's not making it go away, it's making it go out of sight. Okay. So any belief is potentially limiting. It may not be obvious at first how, but the holding something as always true rather than sometimes true is automatically limiting, because now you're forced to ignore the cases in which it's not true. And you're only seeing part of reality, right? The people who have a lot of money don't give as much of it. Well, there's a whole club of billionaires who've all agreed to give away $500 million of their money to charity, right? It's going on. So not true all the time. It's when we get stuck on that it's true all the time that it starts to color our view of reality. Now, those of you who've done the massive belief relief process or cleared many, many limiting beliefs probably notice that these are foundational sort of security blankets that we have, beliefs. And removing, clearing, transforming these beliefs after a while can start to put us a little bit on wobble because we actually cling to them to make meaning of reality and understand the world around us. The possibility, the option is, as a change agent, to clear many, many, many beliefs so that you're free to live in a question mark, in a gray zone, which is helpful if we're trying to upgrade paradigms. It's useful to be able to question all the things that we have collectively held as true for a very long period of time and say, maybe, maybe not. Are we sure? Could that change? That's useful stance for a change agent. Can you see that? Because if you're stuck on that it has to be this way, how are you going to change it? Good. Let's look at a few of these and how we might see the projective nature of it. What's one that came up strongly in you that you can't see how it's really about yourself? Yes? Mm-hmm.
You have more funny friends if you have money.
Okay, good. So we can try a couple things. One is just take the money out of it. And that would sound something like, I have phony friends. Right? okay, so, and so when you're hearing these things, because we're dealing with the unconscious, you want to notice if you have a reaction, right? And I didn't see one. I'm saying the fact that you believe it's not true isn't really all that interesting or useful. You want to watch for a reaction to the statement. So that's one way to play with it. Another would be to flip it around and say, I'm a phony friend to people who have money. And try that one. Okay? But we got to laugh on I'm a phony friend. So you might just try that. Try saying it, I'm a phony friend.
I'm a phony friend.
Anything?
What came up was maybe I wear a mask.
Okay, good.
Might have a mask or two up there.
Uh-huh.
That's what came to mind when you
Good, so write that down. I wear masks. And the other one you might try is I'm a phony friend to myself. Turn it to a complete inside job. I'm just playing around with it, seeing what happens if I twist it around different ways, right? Try to either take the money out of it or take the other people out of it, or both. Good. Yeah?
I've worked with this, like I said before, it says, when I spend money I don't have, it's because I want to be special.
You spend money on what?
When I spend money I don't have, it's because I want to be special.
Good. Great, and we can boil that down to I want to be special. Good, good. So there's a macro and a micro reason why I think it's important for you as change agents, us as change agents, to play around in these realms. The macro is that money gets a lot of positive and negative collective projections that it's easy to get sucked into. And when we say, well, there's limited resource, and that's a very, in a spiral dynamic sense, a green meme, right? Which is to start to be concerned about how the people with the power are going to use the money to destroy the environment, da 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 da, which is a limiting frame. In the macro, I'm inviting you to notice your own and others' beliefs, statements, feelings about money as being more about us and them than it is about money itself, and not to get sucked into that. So I know change agents, for example, who categorically declare that in the new paradigm there will be no money. And my question is, well, why not? Why would we want to get rid of it? It's actually a very clever innovation, right? It's hard in a barter economy to trade chickens for tires, you know? It's nice to have an intermediary something to use. It was really smart of us to come up with that. Now, some of the stuff we're doing with it isn't healthy, sure. And why would we need it to go away? And then the next thing you hear is their negative projections on money. So the question I have is, in the new paradigm, what does a healthy collective relationship to money look like? The issue about our own projections, our own issues, giving power away to money, looking within, is what we're going to work on this evening in the guise of how we ask for money and how much money we ask for. All of this stuff comes home to roost when it's time for you to ask someone for money for something you're going to do for them. And so what we're doing here is trying to do a little house cleaning, at least identifying some of the dust bunnies in there before playing in that realm. Because, as you can imagine, if you cleared some of the beliefs you've named about money, it would be possible to earn more of it. And you might have an easier time asking for it, receiving it, and doing useful things with it when you have it, if there's less of that internal gunk going on. Does that make sense to people, at least conceptually? So, good.